My name is Leah Patron, and this is my Class 5 reinforcement project. Here is where I will go over the problem and its impact in the classroom. Sitting alone quietly for 30 minutes is a daily activity in elementary grades. In all of my field experiences, the 30 minutes of silent reading was also used for the teacher to focus on specific students in this area each day. So if the children who are not working with the teacher cannot remain focused and silent, this will affect one-on-one time with the teacher for other students. In regards to safety as well, since the teacher will be working with other students individually during silent reading time, his or her eyes will not be on the entire class all the time. And since this is an activity that students will be doing from grades pretty much 1st through 5th, this is something that they need to master behavior-wise right in the beginning. Here's where I'll talk about the behavior expectations or the replacement behavior. I'd like to increase the students' ability to sit in their own space. Examples could be their desk or a safe spot they choose in the classroom. I want them to be able to sit in the safe or in whatever space they choose silently with the allotted number of books I allow them to pick for 30 minutes unless they are called up for one-on-one time with me as a teacher or any other teacher. This is where I will review the positive reinforcers I chose. I have chosen individual reinforcers and class-wide reinforcers. My individual reinforcers are going to be a point system. So if I notice that particular students, after the 30 minutes of reading, were focused and silent throughout a majority of the time and they didn't really have to stop them and they seemed to really try hard or made progress, I will reward them with a point system. So I'll give them a little card and this will basically mean that they did well. And they can turn in those cards to me, and after a certain amount of cards, they can win a prize. And that prize could be sitting at the teacher's desk for the day or bringing a show and tell item in. It really can be anything that I choose. And then for my class-wide reinforcers, these are going to be a social reward. So if I notice the majority of the class focusing and trying really hard or making progress, anything really positive towards the behavior that I want, the whole class will either get to pick a Go Noodle, any type of exercise, or an extra 10 minutes of recess. How will I measure the effectiveness of my positive reinforcers? I will measure the effectiveness by setting a timer for the 30 minutes of reading, and I will pause the timer every time I notice the class gets out of hand. I will keep a tally to keep track of the progress. So if over time my record of tallies goes up, that means that they're not really progressing. It's actually the bad behavior is increasing. But if my tally goes down, that means the bad behavior is decreasing. And if it's increasing, then I can reevaluate what my positive reinforcers are and what's not working. I feel that this will be effective because I do have two separate reinforcers. So I have my individual reinforcers and my class-wide reinforcers. And I think that it's important to kind of have both for an activity like this because, if I'm only doing class-wide, but there's like a select few students who are doing really well, I still think that those students need to be motivated, despite the fact that they're already doing well. And I think that also is what makes it more ethical because you have to remember that like every student's different. And I also think it's very ethical because I said that, if it's a majority of the class doing something for the class-wide reinforcers, I didn't say every single student, which would be kind of unfair and unethical. So with this whole setup of reinforcement, I think that teachers need to consider that the lower age of children, the harder the behavior is going to be because younger children have a harder time sitting silently for longer periods of time. So I think that like the overall goal should vary on age. So yes, in the end goal is going to be 30 minutes no matter what, but you have to work towards that and it's going to take a little bit longer. So for some accommodations, some children may be able to focus more and stay on task if they're able to choose where they sit to do their work. This is something I noticed in the field that if children get to choose a comfortable spot in their opinion, to sit at for reading, it honestly helps and motivates them and helps their intrinsic motivation to read more and do what you're asking them to do because you are giving them a little bit of autonomy. And then also, just having them pick a special reading spot can be a really fun thing for them and make reading more fun. Other accommodations could kind of help with the student's fidgetiness. So if a student is very fidgety or they can't sit still and it's just very hard for them to stay in one spot, you could provide them with devices like a fidget spinner to help them sit still and keep them occupied. So for a modification for these reinforcements, I think that it's a good idea to create a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcements. So that way, like those individual students who might have a tougher time than others, you can kind of come up with a schedule and like little mini goals inside the overall goal, if that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm going to go over communication with colleagues and families. I would communicate and collaborate with colleagues by encouraging that we set up this reinforcement system for all of the elementary grades. Like I said earlier, this is a task that all of the grades are going to do. So I think by setting up like a plan that's similar in each grade, this will help bring consistency to the behavior and it will also allow faculty and teachers to work together. For communication with families, I would also inform families of how I am enforcing reading behavior and how they can practice this behavior at home. To be more proactive with families, I would honestly recommend hosting a workshop. I think this is really important because, if I'm sending books home to kids, then they should be able to read this at home, and if their parents are enforcing the same rules, it brings that consistency once again, not just in the school environment, but also the home environment.